In the heart of Africa, there was once a village where joy turned into sorrow, and a mother's tears carried the power to shake an entire tribe. Tonight, you will hear the forgotten tale of betrayal, banishment, and a curse that no one could escape. Long ago, beneath the wide skies of Africa, there lay a village surrounded by tall baobab trees and fields of golden millet. The villagers believed their land was blessed by the ancestors, for every season brought enough harvest, and every festival echoed with laughter. But blessings, as the elders often said, are delicate. They can turn to ashes if one forgets respect for the old dot. In this village lived a woman named Nairai, known to all as a mother of wisdom. Her skin carried the marks of years spent under the sun. Her hands bore the strength of tending fields, and her voice carried stories that kept children awake by the fireside. She was no ordinary woman. She was the mother of the groom. Her only son, Tay, had grown into a strong, respected young man, admired for his courage in hunting and his gentle nature. Now the time had come for Tay to wed a beautiful maiden named Amara, daughter of a neighboring clan. The whole village was alive with excitement. Drummers practiced their rhythms day and night. Women pounded maize into fine flour for the feast. Young men decorated the village square with palm leaves and flowers. It was to be the grandest wedding the village had seen in years. Arai, the mother, should have been the happiest of all. She had dreamed of this day since the moment she first held her son in her arms. Yet, behind her smile lay a shadow of sorrow, for whispers had reached her ears. Some elders had decided she would not be allowed at the wedding. Why? Because years ago, when her husband died, there had been disputes over land and inheritance. Some elders accused her of speaking against the council, of standing proud when she should have bowed. Though time had passed, grudges remained. Now, as her son's wedding approached, those same elders conspired to remind her of her place. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Nairai sat outside her hut, grinding herbs for the evening meal. Tay approached, his eyes glowing with anticipation. "Mother," he said, "soon you shall dance at my wedding. I will see you smile as the drums sing, and I will honor you before the village." Nairai paused, her hands trembling on the mortar. She wished she could tell him the truth, but she feared to dampen his joy. Instead, she forced a smile and whispered, "May the ancestors guide this union, my son." But the truth could not be hidden for long. The very next day, the elders gathered in the council hut. Their voices rose like thunder. "She cannot attend," one of them declared. "Nairai has always defied us. If she sits among the mothers at the wedding, our authority will be mocked." Another added, "Let the boy marry, yes, but let his mother stay away. Her shadow will bring ill fortune." And so, the decree was made. Nairai was banished from the wedding. The news spread quickly, carried on the lips of gossipers. Children whispered it to one another, women muttered it as they stirred pots, and men shook their heads in disapproval. Many felt pity, but none dared to challenge the elders. When Tay heard the decree, he was torn apart. He rushed to the council. "Elders," he pleaded, "this is my mother. She gave me life. How can I celebrate without her presence?" But the elders were unyielding. "Your mother has brought dishonor before. Do not bring her into this sacred day. Choose Tay, your marriage or your mother's place at it." The young groom's heart cracked, but he was powerless. To defy the elders was to risk losing his bride, his honor, and perhaps even his place in the tribe. With heavy steps, he returned home. Nairai looked into his eyes and already knew. "They have forbidden me, haven't they?" she asked softly. Taye dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Forgive me, mother. I am bound by their word." She cupped his face, her own tears glistening in the fading light. "Do not weep, my son. Go and marry your bride. Do not let my sorrow spoil your day." But inside her heart, a storm brewed. That night, as drums echoed from distant rehearsals, Nairai sat alone. She watched the stars and wondered how the same elders who once ate from her harvest, who once praised her wisdom, could cast her aside so cruelly. The fire beside her crackled, and she whispered to the ancestors, "See what they have done to me. On the day of my son's joy, they have stripped me of honor. My heart burns with grief. The ancestors, it was said, always listened to the cries of the wronged, and thus began the first stirrings of a tale that would shake the village to its core. The wedding day dawned bright and golden. The village square was alive with color. Woven mats spread across the ground, garlands of flowers hanging from wooden posts, clay pots painted with sacred symbols. Drummers pounded rhythms that shook the earth, and young girls in bright cloths danced, their anklets jingling like the laughter of spirits. Everyone had gathered neighbors, relatives from distant clans, even travelers who had heard of the great wedding. The air was thick with the scent of roasted goat and millet beer. The ancestors were invoked through chants, and the people rejoiced, but far from the square. In a quiet hut on the edge of the village sat Nairai, the mother of the groom. Her heart ached as the drums echoed through the air. She had dreamed of this day since her son was a boy, and now she could only imagine it from afar. She laid out a simple mat before her hut, placed a bowl of water, and whispered, "May your union be strong, my son. May joy find you, though I am not beside you." Meanwhile, the wedding began. Tay, dressed in fine robes, stood proudly beside his bride, Amara, radiant in beads and cowrie shells. The elders spoke blessings, the people clapped and cheered, yet Tay's smile was strained. Every time he glanced at the mother's row and saw the empty seat where his own should have been, his chest tightened. The dances grew wild, the chants louder, the food endless. Children ran about with sticky fingers, men beat drums until their palms bled, and women sang songs that carried into the night. To any outsider, it was the perfect wedding, but something felt wrong. At the edge of the festivities, some guests whispered, "Where is Nairai, the groom's mother?" Others answered in hushed tones, "She was forbidden." The elders banished her. The whisper spread like a shadow creeping under the sun. A few began to shake their heads. A wedding without the mother? That is against the natural order. It will bring no good. Back in her hut, Nairai's pain deepened. She could no longer hold back her tears. She stood and walked into the forest, guided by moonlight. Each step echoed with bitterness, each tear with grief. She reached the sacred grove where ancestors were said to listen most closely. Kneeling upon the earth, she cried out, "Ancestors, spirits of my blood, hear me. On this night of joy, I have been cast aside. They mocked me, stripped me of honor, and turned my son against me. If justice lives, let it fall upon this village. Let them know a mother's sorrow is no small thing." The trees seemed to whisper, the wind howled, and a sudden chill filled the air. Somewhere in the distance, the drums at the wedding faltered for a brief moment. The fire torches flickered. Children stopped dancing and looked to the sky. Tay, holding Amara's hand, felt a shiver run down his spine. He glanced toward the forest but saw only shadows. The feast continued, but unease spread like smoke. A storm cloud rolled across the moon. The laughter grew forced. The songs lost their rhythm. The air grew heavy, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Night fell heavy upon the village. What should have been the happiest celebration turned into whispers and trembling hearts. The sky, once clear, grew dark with storm clouds. Lightning flashed beyond the horizon, though no rain came. The villagers sensed something unseen had entered the wedding grounds. The elders tried to calm the people. "Keep dancing. Keep singing," they shouted. "The ancestors are with us." But even their voices shook. The truth gnawed inside them. They had banished the groom's mother. And now the ancestors were angry. Suddenly, the bride's necklace, a string of sacred cowries, snapped. Beads scattered across the earth. Guests gasped, for it was considered a sign of broken blessings. Tay bent quickly to gather them, but as he touched the ground, he heard faint whispers, his mother's voice carried by the wind. "You have forsaken me." The musicians struck their drums again, but the rhythm sounded hollow. One drum split down the middle with a loud crack, startling everyone. A child cried. A goat broke loose and ran through the crowd. Plates of food fell, spilling into the dirt. Panic spread. The mother's curse. Someone screamed. "She has cursed the wedding." The villagers began to scatter. Some clung to one another, others rushed toward their huts. The once joyful feast turned into chaos. Smoke from overturned torches filled the air. Choking the singers' voices. At the center, Tay stood frozen, torn between love for his bride and guilt toward his mother. Amara, pale with fear, whispered, "What is happening? Why is this night cursed?" Tay could not answer. His heart knew the truth.
He had abandoned his mother in her sorrow. Meanwhile, in the forest, Nairai sat beneath the ancient baobab tree.
Her body trembled as though the ancestors themselves had entered her veins. She saw visions of the village fires dimming, food rotting, laughter turning into screams. She felt the power of her words take shape. Yet her tears flowed, for though she had wished for justice, she had not foreseen such dread. The next morning, the village awoke to silence. The wedding square was ruined, broken decorations scattered like bones. Food spoiled as if overnight decay had touched it, and the fire pit was cold. No one spoke of joy. Instead, fear gripped every heart. Children grew sick with fever. Cattle refused to eat. The river that once ran clear turned muddy and slow. Even the sky seemed to carry a grayness that lingered over the huts. The elders gathered again, their faces pale. One muttered, "A mother's curse has fallen. Until she is appeased, this village will not see peace." But pride still ruled their hearts. "She insulted our council," one said angrily. "Why should we bow before her?" Another replied, "If we do not, the ancestors will consume us all." Tay, broken and desperate, rose before them. "You stripped my mother of honor. Now you see the price. I will go to her, and I will beg her forgiveness, even if you elders do not." The elders lowered their eyes. Shame burned in their silence. That night, Tay walked into the forest, carrying nothing but a calabash of water and a cloth. The villagers watched him disappear among the trees, whispering prayers. Only the drums of his heart guided him toward the mother whose sorrow had become a curse upon them all. Tay walked deep into the forest, the calabash of water trembling in his hands. The night was alive with strange sounds, owls calling, branches creaking, and whispers that seemed to rise from the soil itself. He followed the path to the ancient baobab, where his mother often prayed. There, he found Nairai seated upon the roots, her eyes closed, her lips moving in quiet chant. Moonlight bathed her face, making her appear less human and more spirit. "Mother," Tay whispered, his voice breaking. He fell to his knees, setting the calabash before her. "Forgive me. Forgive your son who was too weak to stand for you." Nairai opened her eyes slowly. Tears glistened. "My son," she said, her voice heavy, "it was not you I cursed. It was the cruelty of the elders, the pride of the village. But now the ancestors have taken my grief, and it has become a fire none can control." Tay bowed his head. "Then take back the words, mother. Save the village before it is too late." But Nairai shook her head. "A curse is like an arrow once loosed, it cannot be called back. Only humility, only repentance, may soften the wrath of the ancestors." Meanwhile, in the village, chaos deepened. Crops withered as if scorched by unseen flames. Wells dried, though rains had not ceased. Children's laughter vanished. Instead, coughs and fevers echoed in the huts. Livestock stumbled and died in their pens. The once thriving community began to starve. The elders could no longer deny the truth. In desperation, they gathered the people in the square. "We have wronged the mother of the groom," they admitted, voices trembling. "Until she forgives us, this land will not heal." So the entire village, men, women, and children walked into the forest, carrying offerings of food, cloth, and beads. They found Nairai at the baobab, with Tay kneeling beside her. "Mother Nairai," the chief elder cried, "we cast you aside in pride. We dishonored you before your son, before the ancestors. Forgive us, or we are lost." Nairai looked upon them, her face both sorrowful and stern. "You remember me only after ruin has touched you. You cast me from joy, and now you come in tears. The ancestors have seen your arrogance." The villagers fell to their knees, weeping, pleading. Even the chief elder laid his staff upon the earth in surrender. At last, Nairai raised her hands to the sky. "Ancestors, they have confessed their sin. If mercy still dwells in your hearts, let the land breathe again. Spare the innocent children." Spare my son. The wind shifted. The trees stilled. For the first time in many nights, stars broke through the clouds. A soft rain began to fall, gentle and cleansing. The villagers raised their hands, letting the drops wash over them. Hope flickered, yet the curse was not fully lifted. The fields remained barren for seasons to come. The village, once thriving, never regained its old strength. Many families left, scattering to distant lands. Those who remained told the story of the mother's curse to every child, so that none would forget the danger of dishonoring those who gave them life. As for Nairai, she lived quietly until her last days, honored at last but forever marked as the mother whose sorrow had nearly destroyed her people. And Tay, though he remained with Amara, carried the weight of his guilt forever, knowing his joy had been built upon his mother's tears. And so the tale spread, across rivers and deserts, from fire to fire, whispered in the ears of children as they drifted to sleep. Banished from the village wedding, the mother's curse, a warning for all generations. This was the tale of a mother's curse born not from hate, but from pain. Let it remind us that when we dishonor those who gave us life, even joy can turn into ashes. If you wish to hear more timeless African folktales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until the next story, farewell.